Hey guys, Rex here. Not all scientists are necessarily smart. Not all engineers are necessarily smart. In fact, a lot of them ain't so smart. Just because you have a piece of paper on your wall means not a whole lot about being familiar with that topic. It means you sat in a chair and paid enough money for them to give you a piece of paper, and maybe you passed with a D or a C on critical things, and then maybe you cut and paste information just long enough to pass a test, and then you just threw it all out the window. Maybe everything in your test was wrong anyways. You write down on a piece of paper what they want you to write down. They don't actually teach a scientific method in science class hardly anymore at all. So here's a funny story, okay? This is about how birds own your land more than you do, okay? And this is a private property thing too. So it's all rolled up into one. It's hilarious. So I was at this science seminar one time. This world expert on piping plovers, they're these little birds, and they live on sandbars on riverbanks, or near the river, like on the sandbars. That's where they nest in the grass there. And they're like any other little bird that hops around in the sand, right? But apparently they're like an endangered species, someone thought, right? And so I'm going to this piping plover seminar because I like birds. I used to do presentation on birds of prey, raptors, like falcons and owls and eagles and all that stuff, and it's fun. Used to have a good time with that. So I like birds. I think it's interesting. And so this Irish chick comes out, and she's getting her, I don't know, PhD or master's or something in piping plovers. Now, calm down. I'm going to do the accent. If I suck, sorry. You can make fun of my accent. Hey there, you betcha, oofta, y'all. Okay? So, this chick comes in and she's doing this big presentation. Oh, the piping plovers. The piping plovers are diminishing in numbers in the state here. We're finding that last year there was exactly 12,847 plovers in the state. And this year there's only, 10,482 plovers. And then she's trying to synchronize that. Those statistics against if the river went up or the river went down, or when they opened up the dam, or all the laws they implemented where you're not allowed to approach a plover nest under penalty of torture, or them dropping a J dam on your house if you do it. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, so they went all radical on this plover situation, piping plovers, these little birds, and no one even knows what the hell they look like. And so she does her whole presentation. And then she's like, so here we see in this picture, here's a plover nest protection system. It's this giant, huge, welded, solid, like a jail cage. Like something that you would hang, in the medieval days, they had those big jail bars that they'd hang from the ceiling on a chain. It's like one of those painted bright yellow with blinking lights on it and a flag and a sign that says, do not approach the piping plover's nesting area. It's a felony to mess with the nest or whatever, And she's like, we're having problems with the plovers leaving the nest. And I'm just like, holy hell. Okay, so first of all, at the seminar, I'm looking around, and all the professors, minus a couple, some people will ask the question that makes them look smart. They're not really asking the question. They're demonstrating their knowledge, what's the, some genetics term, blah, 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 the plover population as you see. Did you prefer this method or this method for your statistical analysis? And they're not seeing the elephant in the room. I like to, look at it, first glance, get a basic idea of what the hell's going on. Methods and materials. Okay, before I start diving into the infinite details, right? And then they're answering each other, and it's just a show of everyone trying to outsmart each other with their questions. My question was more high-scaled than yours, or whatever, right? So I'm like, yeah, hell with this deal. So I raise my hand. She's like, oh, yes, Mr. Tibor in the back. I'm like, yeah. So how many plovers were there the first year? She's like, 12,487 or whatever I said, right? I'm like, okay. And then the next year, how many plovers? And it's an exact number. I'm like, how do you know that's how many plovers? How did you count them? Oh, that's a good question. So what we do is we take a boat and we drive up the river, and then we have a notebook, and every time we see a plover, we check off the list, and then we do a physical count of the plovers by driving up the river on a boat. And I'm like, I got another question. What if, like, one of those plovers was, like, hiding behind a bush? Because a lot of times animals, when you're driving up by the shore, get scared of humans, and they'll, like, walk behind a bush and you won't see it. And she's just, like, dead silent. Then I'm like, another question. What if, like, one of the plovers that you counted, like, flew way in front of you on the river and landed up there, and then you counted it, like, 6 times because it kept flying around? What if one of the plovers you would have counted was out flying over there and then it landed behind you? Just like, whew. And you could see the wheels start turning. And she's like, oh, those are very good questions. Well, these are just estimates. I'm like, what's your margin of error? And she gets all like, it was freaking hilarious. Dude, you can't count piping plovers by driving down the river in a boat. They don't know what the hell the numbers are. Some of those counting methods are semi-valid, but like, animals hide. Anyone who's been in the bush ever for more than 12 minutes knows that. Now, if you grew up sitting behind a desk in a school your whole life, or in a city, I suppose you wouldn't know that kind of stuff. But, if you ever took a walk in the woods looking for squirrels or marmosets or grizzly bears or Sasquatches, they just don't, like, stand up for count. Oh, here comes the scientist. Everyone just present yourself. 1, 2, 3, thank you, guys. Write it down. It ain't like this freaking jail cell count situation where they're just going to report. They do whatever they want. In fact, they usually try to evade it. Okay, so that's funny. And then, like, I'm like, so the professors start laughing, and I feel bad for the chick, but I have to do it because it's, like, so ridiculous. And I'm like, about your piping plover nesting situation with the big giant cage that sits around it, right? She's like, yeah, and I'm like, okay. So, like, if that was my house and I was a piping plover, and I had my eggs in there and my little baby birdies, and I come back home from the grocery market, and there's a giant freaking flying saucer hovering above my house with, like, rays shooting into it and all this stuff and blinking lights on it and, like, weird signs with alien language on it and the smell of aliens everywhere. You know what I'm saying? I'd be scared to go back home. I'd move. I might even, like, leave my cat in there. I'd be like, hell, if that cat ain't worth it, I ain't gonna fight the aliens for that. I'm out of here. I'm gonna go buy a different house. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go build a house over here. And I mean, like, what the hell? Of course, when you put a giant freaking cage over their nest, they're gonna freak out and leave, and then abandon their young and all this stuff. I'm like, you people are freaking retarded. It's unbelievable. Sorry, that's just funny. Here's where it comes down. So one of my a person I know bought a bunch of land, like a decent amount of acreage, with the hopes of planting some trees on there, make it in a nice, like, recreational hunting area / maybe a cabin or a home someday, kind of like a dream house type situation in the future. And so he's going to get, they have these agricultural programs where you can buy trees, like these little baby trees, and they give you a big discount, or they do it for free because it helps to, tree rows out on the prairie, like in the arid, like where I'm from. They like that because it slows the wind down and prevents erosion. So they'll actually pay farmers to put up trees and, stuff like that. And so he goes in there for the trees, and they're like, oh, they look on the map with like, oh, you can't put any trees on your land. He's like, what do you mean? Like, the other guy has trees. There's tree rows everywhere, like, surrounding my property. Oh, no. There's piping plovers on there. It's illegal. Can't put a tree in your land because of a bird. He's like, what? Yeah. Like, the bird is on the map on your land, therefore you can't plant any trees. Well, what if I get my own trees? Nope. Then we'll have to, arrest you and write a fine or whatever. J-damn your house. Freaking bird owns your land, dude. Don't birds like trees? Now, I understand plovers like sandbars and stuff like that, but, like, what about all the other birds? I mean, animals and trees get along. I don't see, like, I see plovers by trees all the time. So it was kind of funny. And so the guy knows, like, so how do I know if there's a plover there? Like, have you ever seen one? And the guy at the office is like, no, I never seen one. Do you have a picture of one? Oh, no, let's Google it. So they had to Google it to find a picture of what the stupid bird looked like so they could know, why they were basically not allowed to plant trees on your own land. There's a lesson there. You don't own your land. The piping plover owns your land. If the king says so. In fact, whatever the king says is law. And if you don't pay your rent to the king in the form of property taxes, you don't own. Dude, we don't own nothing. Well, that's in vain. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't met nobody that own land. Is there a place in the United States where you don't have to pay property tax? What about the schools? There shouldn't be no freaking public schools. They suck. Look at the kids. Who the hell taught them? What kind of textbooks are they reading? Everyone is fired immediately. Sorry, I offended all the teachers. I'm being hyperbolic a little bit, okay? But like, ever since they invented all this public education stuff, it's gone downhill. When it used to be private schools or country house schools, where some lady would just sit down and read legal documents like the Constitution and the Bible with kids they read at like a college level when they graduated from 8th grade. So how the hell is that evidence that public education is a great plan? I'm yelling at plovers, education, land. What else can I yell at here? But no, dude, like, you don't own your land. And then dudes would be all like, here's the other thing too. I'm a private property guy. I believe in private property. I would love to own my land. Even the house that I got paid off, right? I would love to actually own it. But if I don't pay taxes, guess what happens? Don't own it no more. It will send an army tank eventually to reclaim the king's land. And so I just thought that was kind of an interesting story for you guys, you know. It's funny because the state that I live in proposed a few times, like, hey, on the ballot for voters, do you want to abolish property tax? Because we actually have a huge surplus of money in the state where I'm from, because we have a good economy for multiple reasons. We have a diversified high-tech economy. We have a lot of agriculture. We have energy industry. And so they don't need that much more money. But the government always wants more money. So they put up commercials scaring the old people, telling them that like all the horrible things that'll happen if you don't pay property tax. So everyone voted to keep their property tax. What in the hell is the matter with people? Can nobody take care of themselves anymore? I mean, this is like ridiculous type stuff, man. Seriously. Freaking piping plover owns your land. Can't plant trees because of birds there. Birds like trees. Now, plovers like sand and... oh, what the hell? Oh, well. You know what gives me comfort? This world ain't our home anyways, guys. It's really not. We're just passing through. Don't get too comfortable here. It'll be fixed later. Ugh.